Have you ever wanted to throw one of those big, fancy, expensive glide baits or swim baits that you see a lot of other YouTubers and stuff using, but couldn't justify spending that kind of money on them? Well, I've got a solution for you. That's right. This video is brought to you by Temu, or Temu. Actually pronounced Temu, but a lot of people just say Temu because I think that first commercial said Temu, so, but it's Temu. Temu has free shipping on all items shipped from Temu directly. They have free returns for up to 90 days. I've heard really good things about their return service, but I've never actually had to return anything, so I can't vouch for that, but I've heard a lot of really good things. They have guaranteed delivery, price protection, so like if you buy something and the price goes down after you buy it, within 30 days, you can request the difference in your back. You can get part of your money back. Price adjustments within 30 days. So yeah, use my download link in the description down below, or search for my code DNQ5682. That'll let you view all the items that I'm using in this video, and if you're a new user, it'll give you $100 in coupons to use on Temu, or Temu. Now, let's go ahead and get to the stuff you really want to see. Alright, here we go. Here is the bag from Temu. Comes in another bag wrapped up, shipped like that. Ziploc bags in it. There. So, let's see what we got. I'm going to bring up the app here, show everybody what the prices are. When you go into the app, you up here in the search bar, you type in my code, which once again is DNQ5682. You type that in right there, search, and it brings up all the items that I'm using in this video here, plus your $100 coupon bundle if you're a new user. The first thing I picked up was this one here, which looks pretty solid. It's I've never seen anything quite like this with the bill. I don't know if the camera can see the bill on there. Instead of having a bill like most crankbaits that makes it wobble side to side, this one does the opposite. It's got a bill that's in line with the body to make it glide and cut through the water. Almost 5 inches, 4 3/4, ½ ounce, which is not bad for its size. Pretty lightweight, but it's also heavy enough you can cast it pretty far. I think this will work pretty well. It's got kind of a striped bass shad pattern going to it, which is pretty generic, but it's also like there's fish that look like that everywhere, so it works. And if you were going to go to a competitor or a big name store, something to buy something like this, you're probably looking at $12, right? This one is $4.94 on Temu. So that one I think I can catch something on. Up next, we have, this one's kind of big. It's bigger than what I would normally be comfortable throwing. But, I mean, kind of the point of this video is to throw these bigger glide baits, and this is definitely a glide bait. It's a slow sinking glide bait, but like that other one had a rubber tail, this one has a bristled tail. It's like a paintbrush or a broom, and honestly that's pretty cool. So as long as there's fish around, as long as there's bass around big enough to eat something this big, I think you can do pretty well. This one, let's see, how much do you think this would cost going to a competitor or a bigger name store? My guess would be $15, $20. $7.98. So everything on Temu seems to be at least, or at the most, half the price of what you're going to spend anywhere else. Probably even cheaper than half. I actually found one of their lures about this size floating in the river one day, and I turned around and sold that used bait for $100. So used versions of this are going for $100 or more. If you look on eBay, some of them are up to close to $200 or higher. Brand new ones are even crazier. This one is $5.84. Now I'm going to be honest in this video, even though Temu has worked out a deal with me, I'm going to be telling the truth. The bill on this is kind of flimsy. Not really a fan of that. The tail sitting in the package, squished the way it was, is now bent and warped, which I might be able to fix that if I warmed it up a little bit, heated it up, and straightened it out. That might work. But the original version of this is supposed to be kind of a floating topwater wake bait kind of thing. This one is heavy. It feels like it's going to sink. And the color schemes are lackluster, I guess. This was probably the most natural, native-looking fish pattern that I could find for something that might live around in this area. But it's really not. And I mean, the quality of it, it looks good. It feels good. I think it's going to sink. I think it would be better if it floated. It was more of a topwater surface type bait. But, I mean, that's not a big deal. The biggest problem with it, though, is that being squished in the package like this warps that tail. And if it does sink instead of floating, that tail is going to make it spiral through the water, which is not good for anybody. But it feels like it's heavy enough where that might be an issue. Maybe the bill is going to be just enough to keep that from happening. Yeah, $5.84 for that. Up next, we have two of them. I couldn't decide which pattern I liked better because they were very, very lifelike, especially looking at the pictures on the app. $4.49, which something like this anywhere else would be at the very least like $12. Two segments, swim baits with lifelike patterns on them, very lifelike patterns. They do look a little bit better in the pictures on the app than they do in person, because in person they're very transparent or translucent. You can like see through them. But I think once they're in the water, that's not going to be a big deal. They are very, very good patterns though. Like this one's just a straight up natural bluegill. And this one's a red-breasted sunfish or shellcracker. And I was kind of concerned that they might be too big, because if you watch my channel, everything I throw around here is kind of small, because most of the fish here are kind of small. The smaller baits are going to catch you more fish. Not necessarily a better quality fish, but just more in general, which is better than catching nothing most of the time when you're throwing these big baits. So with that in mind, I wanted something smaller. I thought those were actually going to be a lot bigger than they really were, and they came out to be a decent size. So I think I can still catch something on them, but I wasn't sure exactly how big they were going to be, so I wanted something smaller. And I got this. And it's just as lifelike. It's another red-breasted sunfish pattern, but it's just a fraction of the size. You can see here, this is what, like 5 centimeters, maybe? It's a 6-segment swim bait, which the other ones were just 2 segments. And so this one's got a lot more of like a waving motion than the other ones do. The other ones glide a little more. At least that's what I'm expecting. I have used something like this before in the past, similar to this, similar size, but it only had 1 hook on it. This has 2 hooks. So I think it's going to be even better than that. I think I'm definitely going to catch something on this. This is what I was expecting to be my #1 bait out of this whole batch. And this one, $3.98. I mean, if you try to go to somewhere else to get this, you're looking at least $8. And I expected that to be my #1 pick. But there's kind of a sleeper pick here. They gave me a certain amount of money, and I picked everything out, and I still had a little bit left, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to have it. I want to get as much as I can out of this. So I threw something on at the end. I just tacked it on at the end just to fill out the cart. And now that I have it in my hand, this might be my favorite bait out of all of them. Like, I was not expecting anything from this, but looking at this, the packaging looks cool. The material is nice. They look awesome. I think this might be my #1 pick. It's kind of a sleeper pick here. But these are Swim Jerks soft baits. They are soft plastic jointed swim baits. Segmented swim baits. 3 segments. You just throw them on a jig head or something like that up in the front, and they look awesome. I was not expecting these to be so cool. There's 3 of them in the pack too. Remember that. Everything else you just get 1. This one, for 3 of these lures, $5.98. If you were to go somewhere else and buy this same thing from another company, like $12 at least, it's like half price. And these, I really like these. I'm gonna have to get some more of these, because this is just really cool. I like these. I'm very impressed by them. And last, but definitely not least, actually, this is probably the most expensive thing I got out of, this is the most expensive thing by like $2 or $3. But this one was $9, $8.98. And to be honest, there is absolutely no possible way I'm going to catch anything on this. There you go. And this is the smaller one. They have two different sizes of this lure. This is the 8-inch version. They have a 12-inch. No, they have a 12-inch version and an 8-inch version. This is the smaller one. And this thing is just so massive. There's nothing in the areas that I'm going to be fishing that can eat this. I mean, there's some places, bigger lakes, south of town, like Bronick, Calaveras, where maybe I can hit a redfish on it or something. But honestly, this is probably going to just be a wall hanger. But, I mean, it's very well made. I like this. It's a soft plastic. It's got a good big hook up here, nice heavy weight in the head, big treble hook on the bottom. Got a lot of movement to it. It's going to swim very nice. I can tell with 100% certainty that if you're fishing in a place that has fish that are going to eat something this big, this will work. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be fishing in any of those places. I bought it because I liked it, and maybe I should have gone with a bigger one if I'm just going to hang it on the wall, but for $9, I mean, come on. I am thoroughly impressed with everything here. With all that being said, let's get out on the water, try to catch something. All right, let's see what this little swim bait here does. Sinks pretty quickly, but it's got a nice movement. As long as it flows straight, we're good. Okay, so now I'm starting to see why the other one I used only had one hook on it. This rear hook keeps catching the tail, and that is really annoying. He's chasing it. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Oh, he came off. I almost had him there. So there we go. This swim bait works. It will get fish. But I mean, it might not be the fish we're trying to target with it, but it still went after it. And honestly, for gar are notoriously hard to hook, that one stayed on a lot longer than I would have expected. So, props to that. So it's got the design flaw of the hooks getting stuck on it, but other than that, it swims right and it looks good and fish will go after it. Oh, that sucks. I snagged somebody's old line that's stretched across the bottom and tangled up on other stuff. Look at that, there's 3 lines. There's shooting out that way, and coming out this way. I just need one of those lines, one of those 3 things to come unhooked. It was finally coming loose. It broke off. Since this bait's kind of stiff and doesn't really get the swimming motion I like, I was looking at the listing on Temu, and you can rig it sideways if you want, which I was actually kind of thinking about doing anyway, but they actually show it being rigged sideways. And I tried that out some, and it does give it a lot more movement, but I wasn't getting any kind of action on it. And so I've gone back to the more natural position here. And now I'm getting some action on it, but I have to twitch the rod constantly to get it to move, to swim. Which is kind of annoying, but it works. There we go, I got one. Oh, he came off! That was actually a bass, too. I don't know if the camera picked that up, but I definitely had one there. I'll move down and try again. So I'm getting bites. I'm just not, none of these fish are big enough to actually eat it and get the hook. And there was one fish big enough for sure. 2 fish actually. Because I did have one on for a second that got off, but then there was a bigger one that was following it that never bit. Oh, there's a big bass right there. Come on, eat it, eat it, eat it. Oh, there's another one that came out of nowhere. Got him. Got the smaller one, of course. But there we go. It's actually not a bad one. The other one's twice this size, though. Oh my god, my camera's not even recording, is it? Okay, whew. Look at that. This one actually ate the whole thing. About 1.5 pounds. Not very big, but he ate it. That's what I was looking for. Now I can move on to the next bait. Oh, this one's a slow sinker. Thought it was floating there for a minute, but no, it's a slow sink. Okay, whoa. Okay, retrieving that fast has a crazy quick movement, so this is definitely a slow retrieve bait. Oh, it's got a nice S movement. Slow retrieve, moves nicely. Wow, this one ended up being better than I expected it to be. I wanted it because it looks cool, but the movement on this thing is awesome. Just a slow, steady retrieve. Has the exact movement you want. It's a slow sinker, so it's kind of suspending. This thing's great. It sinks, but as it's moving, it stays up on the surface. It's just a matter of finding something big enough to eat it. Oh, got one. Finally got one on the swim bait. Just came up and bit the tail, little guy. I mean, what were you planning on doing with that? And he got all 3 treble hooks. Oh, there. I mean, he's not much bigger than the swim bait, but just right out there, finally got one to go after it. I knew these would work. It's just so hard to get any kind of a bite today, or the last 2 months. It's been so hot, nothing wants to eat, and these are really more of a spring or a fall bait. So now that I have one on it, I'm gonna move on to something else. And unfortunately, everything else I have left is gonna be even harder to catch something on. All right, I'm down here. I'm gonna try to get some footage of the big ones that I don't think are actually gonna catch anything here. I mean, because most of the fish in San Antonio are small, and I don't think they're gonna eat something quite this big. This one maybe. So I'm going to throw that around for a while somewhere else where I think I might be able to catch something on it. I'm going to throw this one again because I didn't catch one on it, but I did have a gar go after it. But there's 2 other ones that I'm really not sure about. Mainly this one. I'm going to tie this one on and just see how it swims, see what it looks like. I'm not even going to take the hook protectors off. Oh, that has got such a good swimming motion. That looks so good when it swims. I don't know if you can actually see that or not. Hold this down a little farther. Now that I'm looking at this might actually catch something if there's a fish around here big enough to eat it. It's just so hard to cast. This is not a bank fishing lure. This is something you need to fish from a boat. It's just got such a nice swim to it. It goes right, cuts right through the water. It looks like a real fish. This rod is definitely too small for it. Actually, this line is too light for it. So this thing actually swims really, really nicely. Even a slow movement, that tail got a lot of wag to it. That's pretty awesome. I don't think I'm going to catch anything with it, so I'm going to go ahead and tie on something else. Let's see how those things swim, and then I'll tie on something that I might be able to catch something with. We'll see if we can catch anything down here. So up next we've got this Klash Swimbaits. I want to tie it on. Now I pointed out when I opened it that this tail was a little bent. It's got some curve to it. That's a concern. But it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. But let's get it tied up and see what happens. Alright, so the rod I'm using today is much better suited for something like this rather than that big heavy Trout Swimbait. See if it floats. Oh cool, it floats. Awesome. And it's actually got a really good movement. And it's got a loud knocking sound. This thing, oh wow. This one is just as good as the name brand original one. That's insane. Just do it real slow. Try not to get it to dive down too far, but there we go. Okay, it's not a very deep diver, which is good. That tail does not affect it, so the bent tail does not affect the performance at all. Now that I've got this and I'm seeing it out in the water, I might actually be able to catch something on it. So let's find somewhere where there might be some fish hanging out. Wow, this thing's actually got some good movement to it. I'm very pleasantly surprised. That's awesome. The quality of these baits is beyond what I expected. Like most of them are performing better than I expected. The rest of them are performing exactly as I expected, which is great. It's awesome. Oh, it's a slow floater too, so it suspends down there and slowly rises up to the surface. That, to me, that makes it even better. These baits that I'm using, I might not be catching anything on them right now because the places I've been fishing are not great places to fish, but I can guarantee you these baits will work. I was concerned that they were just way too big, but they're really not that big. Just, they're not really feasible for the areas where I am. But I can guarantee you that these will work if you have a better place to fish than I do. How do I get these off without hooking myself? Okay. This one's got really good hooks on it, possibly better than everything else. It's a smaller size than the other two big ones I was just throwing. And I think I can catch something on this one for sure, just maybe not here. Oh, it's much slower moving. It's got a real wide S pattern. It's also sinking, but it's a slow sinker. Oh, there's one following it. Come on, that was a good sized bass too. He followed it up to about the tiller there and turned around. So I had another one chasing it right now too, so right here. I need to cut it off and put on a slightly smaller swim bait. And here we go, this one's about 5 inches, considerably smaller than the rest of those, smaller profile. I think it will do better. It has the same movement as the last one I was just throwing. It's got a nice wide S pattern. Definitely just more of a gliding. So you want to like twitch it some and let it swim on its own and then reel in the slack. Sinks a little bit faster. 2 big bass. Just, you're not really hunting the sunfish though. It's just cruising. There's 3 of them. So I just saw 3 big ones cruising around the wall here. and they saw me and kind of headed up that way. So I'm just hoping they're still over there. Is that a fish? Yep, that's a fish. There we go. Oh, it's a nice heavy one. Don't move. Got him in the gill down here too, that sucks. Ow. How do I get that out? That's weird. These are some very good hooks. There we go. That's not a huge fish, but just under 2 pounds. Pound and 3/4 maybe. This one works. Caught a halfway decent bass. Alright, I almost called it quits on this video because I already tested out all the baits, but I only caught 3 fish, and I lost the main bait that I really wanted that I thought was going to do really well. But I went ahead and ordered some more of them anyway, and so yeah, now I'm going to try it out and do some more testing on it and try to land something, because I did have a gar go after it, but it doesn't really count. Like, you gotta have something, you gotta land something on it, you know? Alright, let's try it. Try to get some footage of it right here. Yeah, it swims pretty nicely. This thing's got a really nice swimming motion. It's one of those where the head stays still and the body swims around it. Behind it. Oh, there we go. Got one that time. He came out of that brush pile right there and ate it. There we go. This is about average for the bass in San Antonio. This is exactly the size of bass that this bait's gonna catch. There we go. It's a good looking bass. Oh, didn't get a nice release on him, but he's gone. Healthy bass. He was kind of thick, chunky, but still not very big. Good bass though. All right, there you have it. Out of the 7 total baits I was trying, I did say 3 of them were probably too big for me to catch anything on, and I might have actually been wrong about that. I think I could have caught something on them if I put in more time at more locations with better fishing. The other 4 I actually caught something on, so worked out pretty well. The swim jerk, the soft plastic one, I was very excited when I first saw it, when I first opened it up. It looks great, it feels great, it looks like it's got a lot of movement, but I could not get it to give any kind of swimming motion. But honestly, I think that's because I had a really, really heavy jig head on it. That was just basically taking all the momentum from the bait. So I think if a smaller jig head, or even weightless, just put a regular J hook in there, and it might work better. But it worked. I caught a good one on it. The mini swim bait, this one, worked ideal. The head stayed still and the body swam behind it. It worked very well. I actually had to buy some backups because I lost the original one I had, got snagged. But pretty quickly when I was using the original one, I had a gar on that I fought for a while. And then once I got the replacements in, it did not take very long for me to catch another bass. So those worked exactly the way I thought they would. This one here sank a little faster than I would have liked, but it had a nice gliding movement. So like you throw it out, you reel in the slack, give it a small tap, and it would glide towards you, and it would do a nice S pattern, and it worked. Up next was this one, which I really like this. This was a good bait, had a nice swimming pattern, was easy to use, and caught fish. Now on to the big three. We had this one here, which swam almost exactly the way the bluegill did, the way this one did. This one here had a nice big slow S pattern. Was easy to use. I think I definitely could have caught something on it if I put some more time and effort into it. This one here was probably the big surprise out of all of them. I thought the sleeper pick was going to be the soft jerk, but sleeper pick was actually this one. This one here, I was not really expecting much. There was some damage on the tail. It was bent, but that had no effect on it whatsoever. It worked great. I think if I put a good amount of time into it, and I could probably catch something on it. Now, this one here, big soft plastic trout Swimbait, actually worked better than I thought it would. I'm not sure I'd be able to catch anything on this unless I went traveling somewhere where that's known to have big fish. Around here locally, I don't think it's going to work anywhere, and it's not really something to use off the bank. It's more of a boat lure, maybe a kayak thing. They were all great. I was pleasantly surprised by all of them. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you want to see me do any videos on any of these baits again. Maybe the bigger ones, try somewhere else, or even the smaller ones. If you want me to put more time and effort into them, let me know. Check out the link in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.